We've seen a lot of LEGO T-Rexes over the years. From intricate brick-built behemoths, to sleek, realistically decoed figures, to charming 3-in-1s. We even got one in blue. And these are just a tiny sampling, but all of them can trace their roots back to one simple monochrome ancestor, the Dino Island T-Rex from the year 2000. And while this wasn't the first molded Rex LEGO ever produced, that award goes to Duplo, it was indeed the first in system scale. And while it lacks the detail and realism of some of its offspring, there's an undeniably classic charm here, a purely LEGO aesthetic. But if you have a T-Rex, you need a way to transport it, right? Well, the designers of today's subject certainly thought so, and gave us not one, but two ways to accomplish that goal. So once again, let's journey back to the strange and mysterious shores of Dino Island. Welcome to TrikBrix. Hello again everyone, I'm Jamie. I hope you're ready to run for your life because today we're getting up close and personal with some terrible lizards and a Triceratops. It's our mission to save these majestic creatures from the hooked grasp of the evil Baron von Baron. And of course, the easiest way to do that is to completely remove them from their natural habitat. Because ferrying 6-ton animals across thousands of miles of ocean is way easier than neutralizing one nefarious minifigure. Okay, I am being a bit facetious, and we're going to run with the idea that our adventurers are taking these dinos back to the mainland to be researched, even though they already have a research compound on the island. For some reason. Let's just take a look at the instructions. And my copy seems to have come directly from Dino Island, having been trampled by a herd of Triceratops. I really like this full-page image here, and always find it funny when Johnny's hat is rotated to give the illusion of speed. It's also interesting that there's no vegetation here, mirroring the set itself. And here we have photo instructions for a plane. It's a plane. Of course, the dino stats are included, and the rear showcases a slew of alt builds and a few comic panels. I really do appreciate the extra care that went into these instruction booklets. We occasionally get a glimpse of this today, but it's few and far between. Despite a somewhat confusing, to me at least, set premise, I actually don't dislike this. On the contrary, it's probably the final Dino Island offering I'd feel compelled to add to my collection if I wasn't a completionist, along with the Island Hopper and Trackmaster. 5975 T-Rex Transport was released in the year 2000. Contains 321 pieces, 5 minifigures, and originally retailed for $50. Today, adjusted for inflation, that's equal to about $95 for just over 300 pieces. Even back then, there was an upcharge for large molded animals. As I mentioned in the intro, there are in fact two forms of dinosaur transport here, but we're actually going to begin our tour by taking a look at the third vehicle in the set, the Villain's Ride. And this is the first of Baron von Baron's fleet we've looked at so far in this season of the Adventurers Retrospective. So it's a good time to point out that on Dino Island, both the good guys and the bad guys each have a distinct color scheme for their vehicles. Our heroes have opted for accents of gray and red, while the villains have gone the black and blue route. Most of the time. There are odd exceptions. At any rate, this little car is serviceable, but it lacks the one thing I love so much about most of the vehicles in this theme, the two-person cab element. You could, technically, carry both of the included villains here if someone's willing to ride in the trunk, but is that really ideal? Before attempting some cosmetic surgery, I will say that I like how these headlights are constructed, and the fact that we've got a side-mounted rifle here. And the crate out back is more than sufficient to hold the odd couple of frying pan and dynamite we're given. Is there a method to Baron's madness here, or am I just overthinking things? Regardless, this cramped single-seat section has got to go. This mod does require a few additional pieces apart from the cab, but they're all fairly common and, more importantly, period correct. And I find the result at least 10 times better. I'm really baffled as to why this wasn't how it came originally, because it looks so much more finished in my eyes. And now, our two baddies can cruise the island side by side in style. We've seen Baron many times before. He hasn't changed a bit since his days of being Sam Sinister's stooge back in Egypt, but his companion in crime is a fresh face to our cast of characters. If we take a look at the September 2000 issue of Mania magazine, we'll see that it's at this time that Baron von Baron presumably began assuming Sam Sinister's identity, and somehow gained a sister in the process. Alexia Sinister, or curiously Sanister in some markets, is described as being a criminal mastermind and spy, and she's dead set on recruiting Johnny Thunder to their cause. Her hairpiece was nearly 20 years old at this point, first appearing in 1983, and she features a character-specific, very unfriendly face print and a unique torso. I've always been intrigued by the fact that her shirt seems to be missing a button, perhaps. An interesting detail to add into a set made for 7-year-olds. But she is a welcome inclusion to the cast, and having appeared in only 2 sets, she's one of the less common characters to collect. Next up is the first of our heroes' vehicles. This old school tractor trailer is the perfect... What? Again with the... Hang on. This old school tractor trailer is the perfect way to get the dinosaurs from the center of the island to the shore, and features some nice detailing and a few rare parts. Moving from front to back, we begin with the truck, which doesn't really have a whole lot setting it apart from other Adventurers trucks, but I do really like the exhaust stacks here. And if anyone out there knows what the HC514 on the license plate means, please clue me in. I've been wondering about that for decades. It's kind of odd to me that this is a convertible, but adding a roof to it isn't too big of a challenge if you feel like doing so, especially if you swap in the 2-seater cab and use a roof design similar to the one seen in the Pharaoh's Forbidden Ruins truck. And remember how I mentioned that this contains some rare parts? This axle piece in brown only came in 2 other sets. One of them, Secret of the Tomb, is fairly inexpensive to acquire, but the other one is Amazon Ancient Ruins. The second rare part is what makes up most of the trailer. This is a single 26 stud long element, and in light gray, it was only ever seen in one other set, 6328 Helicopter Transport from 1998, which makes its appearance here the last time we'd ever see it. I find the use of the Castle Portcullis piece a stroke of genius. They work perfectly as a cage, and their connection to the trailer is intentionally tenuous, allowing for ease of loading and unloading our livestock. At the rear, we'll find this crate, which houses a pair of binoculars and a mug. But, of course, you can store whatever you want in here. And that brings to mind the only thing I'd like to add here, which is some additional storage on the trailer tongue, since it feels kind of empty otherwise. I really think this is a worthwhile vehicle, especially with the cab upgrade, and it would be interesting to see other trailer styles or cargo options for when Johnny and Dr. Lightning aren't hauling dinosaurs around. Speaking of them, they're both the same great, iconic minifigures we've seen throughout the series up to this point. Now that we've seen the truck and trailer, I guess this is the best time to bring in the real star of this show, our classic green T-Rex. If you didn't grow up with LEGO at this time, it's difficult to express what a big deal this was. With its cheapest inclusion being here, in what equates to about a $100 set today, this was not something that every kid had. It really felt special, and no doubt was the main reason a lot of young LEGO maniacs wanted this set in the first place. And it never got any easier to acquire. This Rex was only ever found in 2 other sets, the Dino Research Compound and the Steven Spielberg Movie Maker set, which, side note, was something I wanted more than life itself back then. While younger fans may find its design simplistic and its detail lacking, this is undeniably Lego. Sure, I love the modern versions too, but there's an aesthetic going on here that used to be synonymous with what Lego was. This design language was unique and specific to their brand, and they've almost completely forsaken it. Nowadays, Lego animals just keep getting more and more realistic, and by default less Lego-like. It really makes me wonder what they'll look like in another 25 years. But all that to say, I love this thing. It stands as one of the last examples of pure Lego creature design. But now that we've got her on the truck, it's time to get her to the boat. This is, without a doubt, my favorite part of this set. It's not perfect, but it's not too far off. Of course, I will be making a few upgrades here, but first let's see what you get straight out of the box. For starters, it's by far the largest vehicle ever released in Adventurers, measuring in at 48 studs long by 10 studs wide. And just like the tractor trailer, it's home to a few rare parts. And two of them can be found right up front. This 8x10x1 bow element in white was only ever seen in one other set, Diving Expedition Explorer from 1997. And the light gray version here was never seen anywhere else. It's set exclusive. Up top, we'll find a small flagpole with a red flag, a crate with some weapons, a barrel, which is empty per the instructions, and just when you thought we'd seen the last of the T-Rexes, this adorable little hatchling. The sculpting on this little guy complements the full-size version so well, and it really makes me wish we could have seen more baby dinos, like the Triceratops and Stegosaurus. A single anti-stud on the bottom means he can sit or be held by a minifig. An interesting fact, this is the only dinosaur figure to outlast Dino Island, going on to be offered in 13 sets total in 4 different colors until 2009. These 2x8 light gray slopes running along here were surprisingly only available in one other set, 6456 Mission Control from 1999. And I'm not sure how I feel about the red deck here. I think I'd prefer a more neutral color, maybe dark gray, but this is in keeping with the hero's color scheme. And these are actually 8x16 bricks, like this green one, so it's not quite as easy as just swapping out some plates. And believe it or not, outside of bulk brick boxes, this is the only proper set in which these red ones were used. A single chain here is meant to restrain our quarry, and it can either be used with the T-Rex, like this, or with the Triceratops. Another fantastic dino design. The Triceratops is surprisingly not a monochrome figure, but utilizes dark gray, light gray, and a tiny bit of white for the horns. Fans of Islanders will instantly recognize this piece. It features 2 whole points of articulation. The tail, which is the same mold as the one seen in our T-Rex, and the head. This sculpt reminds me so much of the classic crocodile. We'll actually see another color variation of this in a future episode, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Back to the boat, there's a bit of a sheltered area here under the bridge, and a single clip on the wall. You're not instructed to put anything specific here, so you can take your pick from the myriad of included accessories. No matter the sub-theme, Adventurers was always generous with tools and weapons. Coming around to the stern, we've got another barrel here, this time with a shovel and a rifle. I like to think there's coal in here for feeding the boiler. The build here is perfectly serviceable, and I appreciate the inclusion of this printed tile. For some reason, rather than assigning it to a minifigure, we're directed to place this opening backpack here. It holds a pickaxe and magnifying glass, and of course can be used to store any spare 1x2 tiles or small accessories you might have. The final rare element of the set is this strange 10x4 wedge brick in light gray, making up the stern. We get 2 here, and the only other place it was ever seen in this color was Dumbledore's office from 2002. Another red flag caps off the stern. And that just leaves the bridge, which can be accessed via the ladder on either side of the boat. Up here we've got a sextant and binoculars, the wheel, and a nice cup of coffee. The accurate port and starboard lights are a welcome touch of realism, and there's enough room up here for a few minifigures to stand comfortably. Which brings us to our newest adventurer, this scrappy kid named Mike. Apparently, Johnny rescued him from something at some point, and he just decided to stick around for a while. I really like his brown kepi, and the torso print is fantastic, but I don't really like his face. It's an odd, almost anime art style that just doesn't quite fit in with the design language of the rest of the crew. There are several heads available from roughly this time period that I think would look better, but my favorite option is using Bablu's from Elephant Caravan. He still looks like a kid, but not like a kid from another planet. Granted, this face print was still 3 years away at the time, so if you're a stickler for period correctness, I think young Anakin is another excellent donor. I just don't happen to have that figure at the moment. With that said, I always appreciate these few side characters we get in and amongst the sea of Johnny Thunders and Baron Von Barons, and I think Mike's inclusion advances my theory that Dino Island was playing to a younger audience than the other Adventurers sub-themes, which could also account for his cartoonish face and the fact that he never made it off Dino Island. The last detail on the boat is going to lead us right into my modifications, because this smokestack is laughably blocky, even for the time period. I'm kind of confused as to what the decision-making process was here, because they had just nailed this the previous year in one of my all-time favorite sets, River Expedition, and we're actually going to be taking a few bits of inspiration from this beauty. I understand that these 1x2x5s lower the part count a bit, but even just topping those off with some round bricks greatly enhances this. Personally, I prefer the look of round bricks all the way up, and if you want to put a cherry on top, one of these cone pieces can be inverted with the help of a 4-long bar, which makes for some nice flare detail up here. Another thing I really like about the River Expedition Steamboat is that it's kind of like a mobile laboratory. There's a workbench here with some artifacts for studying and a few tools on the other side. This spot under the bridge seems like the perfect place to add something like that. Now, Dr. Lightning can examine specimens and artifacts wherever adventure leads. Lastly, we could add a mast here to the front. This kind of alleviates the overall flatness of the bow and balances things out a bit. Of course, we could also include a string to represent the radio antenna. And I'll swap these parts out for black, as I feel like it better suits the black mast and smokestack. I'm really digging this look now. I wasn't sure if I'd like it when it was just a thought, but I think this is what'll be sitting on my shelf from now on. But even sticking to the stock design straight out of the box and with its few shortcomings, I love this boat. Much like the Island Hopper and Trackmaster before it, this is a useful thing to have on any globetrotting quest, and can be used to transport much more than T-Rexes. And for that matter, so can the Semi. Both of these are great vehicles, and I'd recommend this set based on their strength alone. But you also can't go wrong with these guys either. Whether or not you sip from the cup of tea that is Dino Island, these are just fun to have and represent a classic era of LEGO design. If you agree, I'd say you're in luck, because this set can usually be picked up for less than $100, right in line with its inflation-adjusted retail price. If you're just starting out with your Adventurers collection, I'm not sure I'd recommend this as an introductory set, but if you've already picked up some of the others that better represent the overall theme, then this might be the perfect addition. It'll add some unique vehicles that interact well with all of the other sub-themes. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What modifications, if any, would you make? What exactly do you think the premise of this set is? Because, quite honestly, I'm still a little confused. Could it be that Johnny and the gang are actually transporting these dinosaurs back to the island after Baron kidnapped them? Maybe we've been looking at this whole thing backwards. But at any rate, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned because we're far from finished with Dino Island, and things are just gonna get crazier and more confusing from here on out. Speaking of crazy, I've been absolutely blown away by the generosity and support of the members of Club Maniac. Each one of these names you see here represents someone helping me bring videos like this to the world, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do it. So a big dino-sized thank you. And even if you're not a member, I genuinely appreciate your viewership, especially if you made it this far. I'll be back again soon with another video, but until then, this has been Jamie for TrikBrix. As always, take care and play well.